Most vivid memories of when we lived out on my grandparents' farm. Not all of them are fond memories, but it seems like everything growing up revolved around that farm because of my grandparents and just the really strong connection to my grandparents and that farm. My grandpa was Faber Shepherd, and then his wife was Kimsey Shepherd. They had 9 children, and my grandma died when I was in 7th grade, and then my grandpa died when I was 19, I believe. Well, money was always an issue, I think, when I was a kid, and so there would be several occasions where we would have to move in with my grandparents due to financial problems. But then after my grandma died, my grandpa was getting older and had Alzheimer's, and he just really needed somebody to be there with him all the time. So we moved in with him then, not for financial reasons, but just to take care of my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And it got really hard for my mom watching him just decline. And we ended up, my cousin, I had free reign pretty much, and I really liked just running around the farm. Parts of it were scary because I never actually saw any bears or any wild animals, but I was pretty convinced they were there. And I just liked hanging out, and there was this one section behind the barn where it was behind the barn and a little behind the chicken house, and there was this little creek that ran through it, and there were these trees there, but they weren't full-grown trees. Just the way it was set up, it always reminded me of the book The Boxcar Children. Like, this is where the Boxcar Children would have lived, except there wasn't a boxcar there. And so I would hang out in that little area, and I would kind of get little things from around the house. You know, I had a little skillet, not that I could build a fire, but I pretended that that was my little Boxcar Children area, and I loved that. And I liked hanging out in the barn with the animals. I hated the chickens. God, those chickens were mean. But I just really liked being there, and then dinner with Grandma. I mean, sometimes it would just be a box of banquet chicken that had been frozen that she would put in the oven, and Pepsi. Grandpa loved Pepsi. And those jars of the hot mix, pickles and onions and all that kind of stuff. I can remember those too. Just hanging out, and I remember sitting on the porch swing with Grandma. And I can't remember what we talked about to this day. She would smoke, and Grandpa did not believe women should smoke. So Grandma would hide behind the house, and she would smoke. I think Grandpa knew, but when we would go to town for groceries, she would go into the drugstore, the pharmacy area, because she needed her lady things, is what she would say. But if anybody thought about it, I mean, she was too old to need lady things. But Grandpa would always sit in the car and wait for her, and she would always buy a carton of cigarettes and hide them in her purse, and then buy something else in a bag. And that's how she snuck her cigarettes.
Well, what did you do for entertainment out there? What did the family do for entertainment?
Grandpa liked to play dominoes. We would play dominoes a lot, and checkers. That man, he beat me every single time, and I was always convinced I'm going to beat him one day. And so I'd always ask him to play checkers, and I would never win, ever. He would never let me win. I mean, he played for real. Grandma and Grandpa got a satellite dish when I was young, like the huge satellite dishes, and I remember she would watch Spanish television, and she would say, well, you can tell what's going on. Just watch. This person's doing this, and this person's saying this, even though she didn't speak a lick of Spanish. And she liked wrestling. She loved to watch wrestling. So we would either play games, sit around and talk, or watch TV and talk about what was going on TV.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I remember most. When you weren't out working, you know, because Grandpa, he had cattle and he had pigs, and he didn't have horses in any of the time that I lived there, but he used to have horses. And so, you know, he would have to be haying or taking care of the animals or something like that. And then Grandma, she'd be cooking things. They had cherry trees, and so every year, you know, they'd get the cherries, and she would make fresh cherry cobbler and things like that. She canned because they had a big garden.
Mm-hmm.